Hi guys, Russell here from Homebrew Republic. Welcome to another brew review. Today we're checking out the Mangrove Jack's Craft Series Raspberry and Lime Cider. First of all, what does the packet say we're going to get? Here's the description. Bold aroma and flavour of fresh, juicy raspberries with a brilliant, sharp lime finish and wonderfully thirst quenching and moorish. ABV 5.2% and colour rosy blush. Sounds pretty good, right? If you check out one of my recent videos, you'll see I did a brew review on the Mangrove Jack's Craft Series Apple Cider, and as far as I'm concerned, it was a roaring success. The finished product was great, it was really sharp, it was really clear, and the flavour was amazing, which was awesome. So the reason that I did it was also because my wife doesn't drink beer. So basically I wanted to do something that I was able to share with my wife and then we'd be able to enjoy it together, and it worked incredibly well. So well in fact that I'm coming back and giving this one here a go, which as we've mentioned is the raspberry and lime. I'm also approaching Christmas, so I'm kind of thinking about what's going to be available to drink over the Christmas period. For me right now, I'm 3 weeks out from Christmas. So what I remember from last time, fermentation will take the normal, around 10 to 12, maybe 14 days. But with beer, what I find is I much prefer to let it bottle mature for up to 6 to 8 weeks before I really start to enjoy it. But what I noticed with cider is the instructions, based on the instructions, you can drink it from 2 weeks in the bottle. And for me, the difference between trying it at 2 weeks and then the difference between trying it at 4 weeks or 6 weeks was really negligible. So one of my key learnings from last time is that the cider needs nowhere long to bottle mature in the bottle before it's a really, really nice brew. And the friends of mine who I let try it in those earlier stages, they were still giving me the same feedback, that it was really easy to drink, that it was really nice, and it went down really well. So one of the reasons that I'm doing this brew today, or actually I guess I've timed my brews, the last brew I put on intentionally a bit further out from Christmas was a beer. I wanted to make sure that had a slightly longer period of time to mature before I start drinking it in January. This one here I intentionally left until right before Christmas because I knew that I could get it on and give it 2 weeks in the bottle to mature and get a pretty nice finish to drink and be ready to go. So that's what we're up to today. This is the packet itself, and big fan of the Craft Series range for a number of reasons. Number one, they use a cold-filled nitrogen flush technology. So basically what they're saying is they've got a better process for getting the malt, or in this case the extract, into the pouch, and that process is going to protect our flavour and our aroma characteristics more so than we would if we were using a traditional canning process, which basically means better contents and better finished brew. There we go. Smells amazing. So what I love about these kits is that it's a dual pouch. We have a wet side and a dry side. What is in our wet side is our extract for the raspberry and lime cider. What is in the dry side is the other ingredients that are included with the kit. We have our instructions, we have our Craft Series yeast, we have our sweetener, and we have our flavouring. One of the main reasons that I like the Craft Series range is they come with Craft Series yeasts included, and this kit comes with the MO2 cider yeast, which according to the description is going to reveal the full fruit potential and make an exceptionally crisp and flavoursome, refreshing cider. A couple of things to note. According to the instructions, the ideal fermentation temperature range is 18 to 24 degrees Celsius. According to the yeast, the ideal fermentation temperature range is 12 to 28 degrees Celsius. So what that means is we've got a little bit of flexibility in the temperature range that we're using. For me today, I'm going to be brewing in ambient temperature. We are very, very late spring / right on the start of summer. So I am probably going to be around about that, I don't know, we'll see, but probably going to be around about that 24, 25 mark, which is approaching the upper end of the cider range. So it'll be interesting to see what we get in terms of the result of flavour that comes through. The only other ingredient I will call out is this one here. And now the great thing about this kit is we've got a bit of control over the finish that we get. And what I mean by that is the sweetness or the dryness. So what this is a packet of sweetener. If we want a sweet finish, we add all of this in. If we want a dry finish, we don't add it in. And if we want off dry, we add half. For me, the last brew that I did, I added approximately half and created an off-dry brew. And whilst it was really nice, I loved it. I'm probably more towards the preference of the dry or the off-dry myself. But my wife made a comment that she felt it was dry and would have liked it to be a bit sweeter. So what I'm going to do today is go for the sweet finish and see what we get. Process today is super simple. I'm basically going to get this kit mixed up in my fermenter. I'm going to get it down to the garage. Because I use a bit of boiling water on the bottom, the temperature will be up around the 40 mark. I'm going to let the brew come down to pitching temperature, which I want to be in that ideal range, around about the 24-25 mark. I'm going to get my yeast pitch and let it do its thing. The only two ingredients we're adding along the way is the sweetener and the essence. They both go in later in the brew. I'll talk about those when I'm adding them in, but the when, how, all the rest of it is really clearly marked in the instructions, so you won't have any problems there. All that said, too much talking, not enough brewing. Let's get this brew on, and I'll see you guys on the other side for a taste test. Cheers! Done. Hey guys, welcome to the garage. A couple of things. So that's a slightly different view to what you normally get. I normally chuck my brews in my fridge, which is now temperature controlled. But there's currently another brew in there, the American IPA Craft Series, which was the last video I posted. So as I mentioned, we're going to brew this one just in ambient temperature. And I think it'll be alright. Might not be, well, certainly won't be at the low end of the range, but we'll still be in the temperature range, which is fine. So this has been down here now for about 9 hours. Temperature is around the 26 to 28 mark, which is right at the top of our maximum range. I would suggest it's going to come down a little bit further, 2 to 4 degrees maybe. And we are heading into the evening, a reasonably cool evening, so it should cool down a bit more overnight. But going to chuck my yeast in here, give it a chance to activate. At the same time, going to chuck this in here, the sweetener, and as I mentioned, we're chucking all of that in, going for a slightly sweet finish. And yeah, there's my brewing supplies, or my brewing, I don't know, bounty, if you want to call it that. One of the things I think I touched on earlier, where beer is concerned, I like to drink it when it's quite a bit older, 6 to 8 weeks. 4 weeks absolute minimum, but 6 to 8 weeks. And so I tend to have 2 or 3, sometimes even 4 different kind of brews at different stages down here. And I like that as well because it means on any given night I can kind of choose what I want to drink and have a choice rather than just kind of having one thing. The other thing I thought I'd touch on is this guy here, and this is the same fermenter that I normally use for beer. If you're using one of these in particular, one thing to think about is the chances are, I know for this, it's true for this one, that the material is probably going to be slightly permeable, which basically means it's going to hold on to some of the characteristics, i.e. a resin, an odour, a colour, just sinks into the material. So from my point of view, I wasn't concerned with any impacts to quality on the last brew I did, which was the first one. So I'm more than happy using the same fermenter, especially if all I was doing is an odd cider every now and then. I do make sure I give it a bit of an extra scrub to make sure it's nice and clean, but like I said, if all I'm doing is the odd cider, I'll use the same stuff. If I was doing cider more regularly alongside beer, I'd probably get one of those barrels and dedicate it to cider to be safe. But You know, all that said, enough talking. Here's our NO2 yeast. Let's open the top of this up and get it in there. Alright guys, here we go. Yeast in. Sweetener in. That's it. All we're going to do now is leave it be to do its thing. I bandied around some numbers when I was ranting on earlier. Normally beer, for me anyway, sort of takes I'm easily fermenting often for 10-12 days, but the instructions have suggested 6 days is probably about right for cider. So basically next check will be 6 days, assuming fermentation is finished. We will be adding the essence, which is the final ingredient, but that said, we will cross that bridge when we get there. Cheers, see you. Hi guys, welcome back to the garage. It is raining pretty hard outside, so hopefully the audio is not too rubbish. These are the instructions which come with the kit. They come with all of the crafts, well, they come with all kits, but the craft series kits, whether it's cider or beer, have them in this A4 format. But what they have is that little QR code, which if you scan goes up to a page on the Mangrove Jack's site, which gives you the target final gravity for all of their brews, and it's by brew. Actually really helpful. For the beers, it will give it to you, it'll give you two, one for if you're using dextrose and one for if you're using liquid malt extract. For the ciders, only gives you one for dextrose. So we are brewing the raspberry and lime cider, and what it has said to us is that our target final gravity is 1.001 for dextrose, and there's a footnote under the table which says if you were using enhancer, the Mangrove Jack's enhancer, that your target final gravity will be the same. So the fermentation for this brew pretty much over as far as I'm concerned. Number one, day 8. So the instructions had said check it at day 6. Number 2, the final gravity has been stable for 2 days, although it's 1.008, which is way above where we wanted it to be. In terms of our temperature, we have held perfectly on that temperature we previously mentioned, which was around the 24 degrees. So everything's been fine, probably is what it is, and we're going to have to go with it. But for now, what we're going to do, where's it gone, is open this brew up. We'll have a quick look on the inside, and then we're going to add in that flavouring, which was the last thing for us to do. So let's get this open, have a quick look. There is actually a very marginal level of activity happening in there. Just going to go with it, chuck the flavour in anyway. Before I do though, man, that smells good. I can really get that kind of raspberry note coming through. There we go, raspberry, lime, or flavouring. Wait a whiff of that, it smells mostly like that's where the lime's coming from. In it goes. Alright, what I found on, if you watch my other videos, what you know I normally do from here, oh sorry, I'll take it back a step. What the instructions say for us to do from here is to leave it for 48 hours now that we've put the flavouring in. What they also say to do is grab a sanitised spoon and give it a stir. I'm skipping that step, and I will work on the basis that it'll get itself into the brew. Yeah, it'll be alright. If this was beer, what I would normally do once the flavouring has had its 48 hours, is I would add finings. I would leave it 24 hours, I would cold crash for 24 hours, and then I'd rack off into a bottling bucket. When I made my last cider, which I've mentioned was the first one, I did some poking around online and I found a Q&A from Mangrove Jacks which basically advised against using finings unless you intend to keg instead of bottle on bottling. So basically if you're bottling, don't. What I did last time, so I took their advice, and what I did last time was I cold crashed and then I racked off into a bottling bucket. So that was all I did, and the finish on the brew was amazing. So I'm going to follow suit this time. I'm going to put this lid back on. I'm going to leave it alone for 48 hours. I will just take a cursory check of the gravity once after those 48 hours to see where it is. But basically from there I'm going to drop it into a cold crash and then I'll bottle. So yeah, normally at this point I would also say I'll be leaving it for around about 4 to 6 weeks to bottle mature, but I've already made the point. Cider is good to go sooner, so what I'm going to do is probably, from memory, I think the instructions actually say 10 days. I'm going to give it a go after 10 days and I'll do the official review, I don't know, 14, 15 days. So, all that said, cheers guys, see you soon, go well. Hey guys, welcome back to the official taste test of the Mangrove Jacks Raspberry and Lime Cider. Here we go, let's get this bottle open, see what we got on the inside. Bottle, glass, pouring. Can already smell that raspberry note. It's really good. There we are, team. Raspberry and lime cider. Alright, the aromas, even from here, I can get the aroma. The raspberry is coming through loud and clear. It gives you no mistake about what you're about to get. Let's look at the colour. So I don't know how clearly this will come through on the screen, but it's really, really nice. I think the colour on the packet was described as rose blush. I mean, that's exactly what it is. It's kind of got these gold tones to it, but then it's got the tones of rose over the top. It's just a really subtle rose blush colour. It's really, really nice. We've already kind of talked about the aromas, so even holding it here, I can get the aromas. And it's very much the raspberries that float off the top in terms of the aroma. Very subtle lime back notes there. The lime comes through a lot more in the taste, so you lead with the raspberry with some definite lime back notes. It's really, really good. Alright, let's talk about a couple of things. Number one, my final gravity. So I talked a bit about the final gravity. Mangrove Jacks suggested we meant to be going down to 1.001, I think it was. I got down to 1.008. So I think the first thing is just go by when fermentation's over. Now there's nothing wrong with not getting down that far, but what it has done is it's reduced my ABV. So the target ABV from memory was 5.2 and what I've actually got is 4.46. Highly respectable, nothing wrong with that, just not quite where it was meant to go. The other piece was that we fermented through an ambient temperature. We stayed spot on the top of the recommended temperature range, which was around about that 24-degree mark. Finish, sweetness. What we did this time was we went for a sweet finish, so we dropped all of that sweetener in. It's sweet, but nowhere near too sweet. It's certainly not sickening, it's certainly not overpowering. It's really, really nice. It's actually a perfect level of sweetness. It's sweet without being too sweet. Yeah, and then the last thing I'd note is the time that I let it mature for in the bottle. I was quite intentional around trying it 2 weeks, which is after the minimum recommended to let the brew mature, and then just sort of trying it again at 4 weeks and 6 weeks. And I can honestly say that I don't notice a massive difference in the flavour from 2 weeks to 4 weeks. So the really awesome thing about these brews is you can get them on quickly, you can get them into the bottle, and there's a far shorter period of, hey buddy, how we going? We've got a new cameraman. There's a far shorter period of time until you can be out on the back deck when there's sunshine, because I don't have sunshine today, enjoying that brew. The critical piece of this though is how did it go down with my friends, how did everyone like it? Raving fans is really the only thing I can say. It's really, really nice. It's the kind of brew where if you were looking for an alternative to, an alcoholic alternative to beer and wine, that's one of the perfect things to go to. And it's the kind of thing that I would chuck on the back deck and have, put half a dozen or a dozen bottles out at a gathering, and they would all disappear. And it's really cool as well. It's like a really distinctive look and a really distinctive colour, so it actually gets a lot of attention and attracts a lot of interest. The people that I shared this with, the people that I gave it to, no one complained. And what I was really happy about, I gave this to one of my wife's friends, and then it sort of came back the other way when they caught up again. Jane, my wife sort of said, oh yeah, this person, she was raving about it, so it was really, really nice. So that's really cool. It's really likeable, it's really easy to drink, and no issues doing this again, no issues recommending it. All that said, I'm going to wrap this review up. So the final rating for me on the Mangrove Jack's Craft Series Raspberry and Lime Cider is a solid 9 out of 10 on the Homebrew Republic brew scale. The brew scale is just a simple way to rate what you think the quality of your brew is. I'll drop a link in it below if you want to get hold of a copy, but basically what that means is if someone served me a brew of this in a bar, poured from tap or poured from a bottle, I would be more than happy and I'd go back for another one. It's a definite crowd pleaser. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up or subscribe, it always helps us out. And if you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I always try and engage with people and get back to people, or you can feel free to check out our site. All that said guys, next reviews coming up will be a lager recipe that I did, going back to beer. The next beer beyond that is another Craft Series kit. It was an American IPA, and the next cider that I've just put down this week is the Craft Series Pear Cider. So, all that said, thanks guys, cheers.
Cheers!